Channeling their inner rage into displays of divine power, these zealots are the religious fanatics of the barbarian world. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the Daily D20, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Before we dive into the world of the primal path of the Zealot, I want you to remember you could always go down and leave a comment below, let me know what you think of this primal path, and click the link in the description and go rate and vote on these primal paths so we can rate them in the next couple days. If you've ever wanted to play a barbarian with a little more religious twist, the Zealot is probably for you. And also looking at this path, it's got a lot of cool things that help its survivability in the long run, which we'll get into. Ideally, though, the Zealot Barbarian is one that follows a god or a set of gods, oftentimes leaning towards war and destruction-based gods. Not all of them are evil, but not all of them are good either. So I think it's really important for flavor to pick a god that you connect with as a barbarian, someone that you really think has your best interest in heart, and then that can become your deity for your Zealot Barbarian. So when you decide to go down the path of the Zealot Barbarian, right away at level 3 you get Divine Fury, which basically means your deity gets a little more oomph into your attacks. Whenever you are raging, on your turn, the first creature you hit will take an extra 1d6 plus 1/2 of your barbarian level damage on that attack. That damage can either be necrotic or radiant. Depending on what your deity is, that might determine what type of damage you do, or if your DM decides, they might let you switch depending on the situation, where necrotic damage could work better on one type of creature, and radiant damage might work better on another type of creature. It's up to you and your DM. Also at level 3, you'll learn that your deity prefers to keep you alive with the ability Warrior of the Gods. What this ability does is, anytime a spell needs to be cast to resurrect you or bring you back to life, that spell can be cast without using any of the material components. Material components for spells that bring people back to life can get really expensive really fast in these games. And even while I sometimes play games where I don't worry about material components for spells, when it comes to these kind of things, that's where I would draw the line and say, oh yeah, I know you definitely need the material components for these resurrection type spells, because without those, it would just be way too easy to cast. So being a Warrior of the Gods and being in their favor, you would be able to be resurrected without having to have those material components in your party's inventory. At level 6, you gain Fanatical Focus, which gives you a little more protection from your deity. Once per rage, you will be able to re-roll a failed saving throw, but you must use the second roll that you roll. This is really handy in a combat situation while you're raging and the spellcaster hits you with a massive fireball type spell. If you fail, it would take a lot of damage, but if you succeed, you could take a lot less. You might risk it to get a second chance at that saving throw. At level 10, you gain the ability Zealous Presence, which basically just means you are that powerful of a zealous being and that full of divine fury and inspiration that as a bonus action you can let out a battle cry during combat, and then you can choose up to 10 creatures within 60 feet of you that can hear you, and those creatures will gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws for the next round of combat until your next turn. You can do this once per long rest, so it's not something you can spam and make your party super overpowered. It still has its limitations, but right there, if you have a party that is hitting really hard and doing well, and you give them advantage so they can hit even better, and you give them advantage on saving throws, which comes into play quite a bit, this kind of ability could be the ability that turns the tide of a battle into your party's favor. So consider that when using your Zealous Presence. And last, we get Rage Beyond Death. Like I said, this Primal Path has a lot of survivability. This is the deities do not want you to die, so they're going to give you all the help you can get. And this is the epitome of that. This means that when you are raging and your hit points are dropped to 0, you will not die outright. Your hit points will still be 0, but you're not dead yet. You will still be active in combat, you aren't unconscious, but you still also have to make death save throws during this time, as well as any attacks on your quote unconscious, your 0 hit point body will impact those death saves. It basically means you're treated like you're already knocked out, but you're still around and kicking and biting and slashing and stabbing things. And this lasts the duration of the rage. So, if you were to get knocked out in the first round of combat after you raged, you still have 10 rounds of combat while you're raging to do some damage, despite your death saves coming into play, despite other things, which also means your party can then help you a little better. You can get closer to a healer. You could probably take a healing potion. These sort of things can help you stay alive a little bit longer. If the rage ends and you still have 0 hit points and you failed your death saves, that's when you will die. If you've managed to move around and get some healing potion or get some other sort of healing into your character before that, you're fine, you're good, you're not going to die. So it really just gives you a lot of longevity, which also ties into why I keep saying when you're going in combat that looks like it's going to be a little hairy and dangerous, pop that rage right away, get raging. You got 10 rounds of a lot of power boost because you're raging. Building this Zealot is pretty straightforward. I would do a standard strength as your number 1 ability score, followed by constitution, followed by dexterity, because you do have a lot of damage output, but you also have a lot of survivability that comes, so your hit points and armor class won't be as necessary. Like, you still want them, but you don't need to maximize your HP to stay alive because you have so much other stuff coming in and helping you stay alive from your god. That being said, I would say don't be a dingus and go around getting yourself killed, but keep trying to, stay alive and fight well. Using your Zealot's presence, I think, is very useful when you get that level. That will be able to, like I said, turn the tide of war or of battles in your party's favor, and it affects up to 10 other characters, so it doesn't just have to stick to your adventure party, but it can also be other allies that might be in the combat. I think the Zealot is an interesting character, and I think you can do a lot role-playing wise with the deities and having some of that come into play. But yeah, it's an interesting character. So let me know in the comments below what you would rate this character. What do you think of the Zealot Primal Path? And hit the link in the description to go vote and rank it among the others. And in the coming days, we'll have a vote, or we will have a reveal where we show you how everything stacked up against each other. And as always, I'm Richard Quiner. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see on the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. You can also click over here to see more videos in this playlist, or over here to see what YouTube suggests you watch from my channel.